It was July 14th, 1789. In the big city of Paris, France, many people were angry. They were hungry and did not like their king. On this day, they ran to a large old prison called the Bastille. This building was a symbol of the king's power. The people wanted guns and gunpowder from inside the prison. When they attacked the Bastille, they started a very important event, the French Revolution. This revolution was a time of big change for France and for the world. The people of France wanted new ideas to come true. They spoke about liberty, which means freedom for everyone. They spoke about equality, which means everyone should be treated the same, not just nobles or rich people. And they spoke about fraternity, meaning people should be like brothers and sisters, helping each other. These were very strong and hopeful ideas. But the French Revolution was not only about good ideas. It was also a time of much violence and sadness. There was fighting in the streets, and many people died. The promises of freedom and equality often met with terrible acts. People killed others because they thought they were enemies of the revolution. This made the country very scared. So, the story of the French Revolution is full of big questions. Was it a success because it brought new ideas of freedom to the world? Or was it a disaster because of all the killing and chaos? This book will look at what happened during these important years. We will see how these strong ideas changed France forever, and how much pain and trouble came with them. 2. Life before the change. Before the big changes, life in France was very different from today. Your place in society was mostly decided the moment you were born, making it very hard to improve your life or gain more rights. French society was strictly divided into 3 main groups, known as estates. Each of these estates had its own set of rights and responsibilities, but they were far from equal. The first estate was composed of the clergy, meaning church leaders and officials. This group held vast amounts of land and wealth across France. They also enjoyed numerous special rights and privileges. Most notably, they were almost entirely exempt from paying taxes to the king. This allowed them to live very comfortable lives, often supported by the country's resources. Next was the second estate, which included the nobility. These were the rich families with long family histories. They occupied the most powerful positions in the government and the military. Like the clergy, the nobles also had many special privileges and were largely free from the heaviest tax burdens. They lived luxurious lives and held significant power over the majority of the population. The third estate, however, was a different story. This group included almost everyone else in France, making up about 98% of the total population. It was a diverse group, ranging from poor farmers who worked the land to city workers and even wealthy merchants, doctors, and lawyers. Despite being the overwhelming majority, the people of the Third Estate had very few rights. Compared to the other two groups, their most significant burden was that they were responsible for paying almost all of the country's taxes. They carried the financial weight of the entire nation, funding the lavish lifestyles of the king, the clergy, and the nobility. This deeply unfair system caused immense anger and frustration throughout France. The common people, especially the farmers and city workers, often faced severe poverty and hunger. They saw the First and Second Estates living in comfort and luxury while contributing almost nothing to the state. Even the rich merchants and educated professionals within the Third Estate felt shut out. They had wealth and intelligence, but they had no real voice in how France was governed. They were denied important positions simply because of their birth. New ideas emphasizing freedom and equality for all people began to circulate. People started to question why birth should determine a person's entire destiny. This growing sense of injustice made the frustration of the Third Estate boil over, creating deep tension across the country. 3. A country in trouble. France faced serious problems. After many years of an unfair social system, the country was in deep trouble. Most people, the Third Estate, were very unhappy. Nobles and clergy had a good life, but common French citizens struggled greatly. Prices for goods, especially food, had gone up a lot. However, people's wages did not increase at the same rate. This made it very hard for families to buy what they needed every day. They felt that the system was broken and unjust. The biggest and most urgent problem was food. France had two very bad harvests in the years 1788 and 1789. This meant there was not enough grain to make bread. For most families, especially the poor, bread was the main thing they ate. With so little grain, the price of bread rose extremely high. For a poor family, buying bread could use up to 80% of their money. Many people did not have enough to eat and began to starve. There was great anger in the cities and the countryside. People blamed the government and the wealthy for their suffering. Meanwhile, the French government had almost no money. King Louis XVI and his government had spent huge amounts on expensive wars. They fought in the 7 Years' War and later helped America fight for its independence. These wars were very costly and left France with a massive national debt. The royal court also spent a lot of money on luxurious living at Versailles, which did not help the government's finances. The king knew the country was in deep financial trouble. To find money, King Louis XVI tried to solve the problem by asking the richest people in France, the nobles and the church leaders, to pay more taxes. But the First and Second Estates had enjoyed special rights for a long time. They paid almost no taxes. They did not want to lose their easy life or their money.
So they refused the king's requests. This failure made the situation much worse. The country sank deeper into debt, and the common people faced starvation and growing anger. France was truly a country in severe trouble, and it seemed that big changes were very close. 4. The Revolution starts. France's money problems were very serious. King Louis XVI had to act. He decided to call a special meeting, the Estates General. This meeting had not happened for 175 years. It gathered representatives from the clergy, the nobles, and the common people. The king hoped they would approve new taxes. However, the Third Estate, representing the common people, had many complaints. They wanted fairness. They had many more members than the other two estates. But the king wanted each estate to vote separately. This meant the first and second estates could always outvote them. The common people felt ignored. On June 20th, the Third Estate took a brave step. They met and said they were the National Assembly, representing the entire nation. A few days later, they found their usual meeting hall locked. So they moved to a nearby indoor tennis court. There, they made a famous promise, the tennis court oath. They swore they would not leave until they wrote a new constitution for France. This was a direct challenge to the king. In Paris, tension grew. People worried about food. They also feared the king would use his army. On July 11th, the king dismissed a popular minister, Jacques Necker. Parisians saw this as a sign that the king wanted to stop reform. Citizens started to gather weapons for protection. Just 3 days later, on July 14th, a large crowd marched to the Bastille prison. This old fortress was a symbol of the king's strict power. The people wanted gunpowder for their weapons, not to free prisoners. The crowd attacked the prison. They fought bravely, and the Bastille fell. The prison's governor was killed. This event showed ordinary people could fight the king. The storming of the Bastille was a key moment, marking the true start of the French Revolution. 5. New rules for France. After the storming of the Bastille, a new kind of fear spread across the French countryside. This time was called the Great Fear. People heard many rumors. They thought bad people, called brigands, were burning crops. They also believed nobles were plotting against the revolution, maybe trying to starve them. Because of these fears, many peasants became very scared. They decided to arm themselves to protect their homes and families. Soon, these scared peasants began to act. They went to the manor houses of their local lords. Their main goal was not to hurt the nobles, though some violence did happen. Instead, they wanted to find and burn old documents. These papers were the records of all the feudal duties and payments the peasants owed to their lords. Burning these records meant destroying the legal proof of the old system that made them pay and work for the nobles. It was a way to fight for their freedom. The National Assembly in Paris saw what was happening in the countryside. They understood they needed to act fast to bring order and meet the people's demands. So, on August 4, 1789, the Assembly made a very important decision. They voted to abolish the feudal system completely. This meant that all special privileges for nobles were ended. No more special taxes for the rich, and all citizens were declared equal before the law. This was a huge change for France, ending a system that had lasted for hundreds of years. Later that month, on August 26, 1789, the National Assembly wrote another historic document, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. This declaration stated that all men are born free and remain equal in rights.
It listed important rights like liberty, property, safety, and the right to resist oppression. It also guaranteed freedoms such as speech, conscience, and religion. The document clearly said that the government's power comes from the nation, which means the people, not just the king. All taxes needed the consent of the citizens. This declaration was a big step towards new ideas of freedom and equality, though it did not yet give rights to women or enslaved people in French colonies. 6. The king must die. King Louis XVI did not like the new changes in France. He felt his power was much less. He worried about his safety and his family's future. In June 1791, the king and his family tried to secretly run away from France. They hoped to get help from other countries, perhaps from foreign armies. But their escape failed. They were caught in Varennes and brought back to Paris under guard. This event made the people very angry. They felt the king could no longer be trusted. Their belief in the monarchy was broken forever. Many ordinary people in Paris, already facing hard times, became even more radical. They wanted France to be truly free from a king. In September 1792, the new government leaders made a big decision. They ended the monarchy in France. France was no longer a kingdom. It became a republic, a country ruled by elected leaders, not a king or queen. Soon after, King Louis XVI faced a public trial. He was accused of treason, meaning he had acted against his own country. The trial was long and very serious. In January 1793, the king was found guilty. On January 21, 1793, King Louis XVI was put to death. He was led to a public square in Paris. There, he was killed by the guillotine. This new machine was designed for quick executions. The killing of a king, a person believed chosen by God, deeply shocked all of Europe. This shocking event changed how other countries saw France. Their own rulers feared their people might do the same.
Many European monarchies united and prepared to fight against the new French Republic. This was a very violent and important step in the French Revolution. 7. The Time of Terror. After King Louis XVI's death, France still faced many problems. The revolution became more extreme. A group called the Jacobins gained great power. Their leader was Maximilien Robespierre, a man with strong beliefs for the revolution. To keep the new French Republic safe, a special group was created. It was named the Committee of Public Safety. This committee held much power. Its main task was to find and stop anyone against the revolution. Robespierre became its most important member. Soon, a very difficult period began, known as the Reign of Terror. The Committee of Public Safety made tough new laws. These laws allowed the arrest of anyone suspected of being an enemy of the revolution. It did not matter if they were nobles, priests, or even other revolutionaries. Many were caught simply for not fully supporting the new ideas. Thousands were put in prison and then quickly brought to unfair trials with little proof. Many received death sentences. The guillotine, a machine that cut off heads, was used almost daily in Paris and other cities. About 17,000 people were officially executed. Many more died in custody. Even important figures like former Queen Marie Antoinette and some who helped start the revolution lost their lives. Robespierre believed this terror was necessary to make France pure and secure. But the executions continued, and people became very scared. They began to fear Robespierre himself. Finally, in July of 1794, Robespierre's own government allies turned against him. They felt the terror had gone too far. They arrested him. Like the thousands he had sent to their deaths, Maximilien Robespierre was also executed by the guillotine. His death ended the Reign of Terror. France felt relief, but the future was still uncertain. 8. What happened after? After the Reign of Terror ended, France slowly moved into a new period. The French Revolution had changed the country forever. It left many important results, both good and bad. People looked back and asked, what truly happened after all the fighting and change? One clear good thing was the end of the old system of 3 estates. Feudalism, where common people were tied to the land and had to pay lords, was gone forever. Nobles lost their special privileges and tax exemptions. The new idea that government should serve the people and not just a king became a powerful belief. New laws were written for everyone, like the Napoleonic Code, which later influenced many legal systems across Europe. Any citizen, no matter their birth, could now hold important public jobs. Even the metric system, used in many parts of the world today, was a lasting change from this time. These changes helped build a more equal society in France. However, the revolution also brought hard times and failures. For many poor farmers and city workers, daily life did not get much better. They often faced poverty and high prices for food, even after the revolution. The rich middle class, like merchants and lawyers, gained a lot. They bought church lands and took many new government jobs. Wars with other European countries and money problems made France unstable for years. Women, who played a big part in the revolution, were still not given equal political rights, like voting. Also, the idea of liberty for all did not immediately end slavery in French colonies, showing the limits of its ideals. But the revolution's powerful ideas about freedom and equality traveled far beyond France. It showed the world that people could rise up against unfair rulers. The way we talk about political left and right comes from where different groups sat in the French Assembly. Other nations were inspired to seek their own independence and rights. Yet, the revolution also gave a strong warning. The extreme anger and the wish to create a perfect society too quickly led to much violence, like the Reign of Terror. It taught that removing an old system is easier than building a truly good new one. It made people think deeply about the balance between freedom and order. The French Revolution was a mix of great ideas and terrible events. It changed France and the world. Thinking about its lessons, what do you believe was the most important change the revolution brought?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.